He was on his way to a college football career. Life was looking good for Derontae Martin, but on April 25, 2021, Derontae was found dead in the attic of a stranger after attending a party with an acquaintance. The coroner immediately mislabeled the GSW as self-inflicted, even though the crime scene points to homicide. Even after a jury inquest found Derontae died by violence, nothing has been done on this young man's case. Derontae died of homicidal violence, and yet the family still fights to get the S word off of his case file. This man was about to achieve his life's dream of playing college football. Why would he end it all just before he reached his goals? This episode is brought to you by Chaos Rules in Madhouse Madison County, Missouri. This rural community should be a safe place, but it hides a dark secret. Fredericktown is one of the most dangerous places to live in America. With a crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents, Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates compared to all communities of all sizes. I started researching one case sent to me by a desperate grandmother that led me to 15 more. Then I realized this county has had murder, corruption, and chaos since before the Wild West days. This book will start with a lynching by a Fredericktown mob in 1844 and will end up in an explosion. Hold on to your seats when you read this one. You're in for a wild, chaotic ride through rural Missouri. Check out my new book, Madhouse Madison County, today. I want you guys to get into this case because all of the cases are disturbing. So, to call a case disturbing is kind of the wrong. Every one of them is disturbing. I mean, that's not really a thing. But when you see how this case has been misappropriated, misidentified, when you see how this victim has not gotten justice at all in our system, in our society, it was one of those. Last night when I was recording, I was getting extremely emotional, and I try not to do that. I try to stay, kind of keep my emotions even, and this was one of them that's kind of hard to do. So we are talking about Derontae Martin. Derontae Martin was a 19-year-old boy who he played football in college, and he had a rough life. He was from Fredericktown, Missouri. Him and his mom moved up north just a little ways, and they were getting their lives together. He is working a couple different jobs. He had actually worked hard and gotten a scholarship to play football in college, and everything was starting to turn out well for him. So this was life was turning around. Things were going good, and you've got a 19-year-old, and I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I'll call him a boy. Sometimes I'll say man. I'm a mother and I have an 18-year-old son. So to me, technically, legally, he's a man, but he's a boy. He's in that stage of life where he's just about to get started and break out into the world and become what he's meant to be. And this young man seems like he was right on the precipice of becoming something great and making a change in his life for him and his mother. And then this horrible thing happens. So we're talking about Derontae. There's a website that I encourage you guys to go to, and I will reference this website periodically through the show. And I want you guys to go here because at the end, we're going to tell you 2 different action steps that you can actually do as an audience member to help push this through the system, because this is a case that has been dropped. The ball's been dropped and nobody's doing anything. Okay, so you've got a young African-American gentleman here, and I look at this little with the background, green background, and it just melts my heart. It's so sweet looking there. But anyways, we've got this young man who is becoming something, who's starting to get his life together, and we're going to find out. It gives a really good timeline of what's going on in this case. On April 22nd, this gentleman goes and has surgery on his wrist, on his right arm. He has surgery on his wrist to put in some pins, and his arm is in a cast from his fingers down to his elbow. So his arm's in a cast on the 22nd. Now, the reason why that's important, you'll find out here in a few minutes. But on the 25th at 3:01 a.m., the 911 call was put in. Now, what happened between the 22nd and the 25th? Some people that Derontae knew from his old high school, a gentleman asked him if he wanted to go to a party. So he drives with this person 90 miles south back to Frederickstown. His grandma actually lived 30 minutes away. So the plan was to go to this party and then go see grandma and then go back home. And so this was the plan of this young man. And then unfortunately, those plans were never those plans never happened. And so this is what happened on 3:01 a.m. on that Sunday, April 25th, 2021. They get a 911 call. And I'm going to play that for you. I'm going to make sure the sound is up so you guys can hear it really well, those of you that are watching. This is a phone call by the person that owned the house. And we're going to find out that Derontae has been killed in the attic of this man's house, and everything's going to be blamed. And then we're going to spend the evening dissecting that to show why that's not the case. So let's play this real quick.
Madison County 911. What's the address of your emergency?
Yes, I need the cops and an ambulance. Yeah, apparently a guy.
You should have got.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And is that where you are?
Yeah.
I'm going to pause that right there. I will say that this, the audio in this is cuts out periodically, and I'm not sure if it's actually cutting out or if it's the caller not wanting to answer questions or what it is. But I know the first time we played this when we were recording last night, you girls didn't hear that, but did you hear it this time where a female voice in the background is saying that they hate this? Did you catch that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is he breathing at all?
Yeah. No.
Do you think he's beyond any help? Do you want to try CPR?
Somehow got in the back of my. Okay.
Okay, you're cutting out.
Hang on a second. Okay. I can't even get transferred. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording there because it just continues on to that for a few more minutes, and it is constantly being cut back and forth. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And you will find in this call this person. I'm not even going to glorify him with a name. We're going to call him JW for this broadcast. As far as I'm concerned, that's all. I don't even want to speak the man's name. So JW is on the call. He's obviously not showing any kind of emotion or any kind of concern. When they ask the JW if he wants to start CPR, he doesn't even respond. Anyone with any amount of empathy, whatever, would have already been doing CPR while they're calling or had someone doing CPR while they were calling. He's also told the officer that you've heard that he is not breathing, But then you also find a little bit later on, he can't even see Derontae, and he mumbles to someone nearby, "Get me a spotlight." And you'll find out that he couldn't even see Derontae to see if he was breathing or not. So I'm like, okay, which one is it? You're either looking at this kid and seeing that he's not breathing, or you're not. And then also on top of everything, why aren't you up there? Why aren't you in there with the kid, next to the kid, calling? Why are you somewhere else trying to relay information? Get your butt in there, you know. And so this is just the one call, and you can listen to the whole thing on the website. And like I said, I encourage you to go. There's no empathy in this person's voice, none whatsoever. And you'll find out that this wasn't the first time that this kind of thing has happened on this man's property. So is that why he's not showing empathy? Or is he on drugs? Why is this man just flat out seeming not to care? Okay, so that's where we're going to start out here. We've got a 19-year-old boy who hasn't showed any signs of depression, who is getting his life together, who has actively worked. See, there was a point where he almost missed a scholarship, so he had to put in a little extra effort to get his attendance up, to get that scholarship and to get into football. So he had goals, and he chased them. He was achieving them. And right as he steps out and starts to get the prize that he worked so hard for, all of a sudden he ends up dead and dying in somebody's attic. Now, when we were recording this video the first time, we didn't have all the information that we have now. We went ahead and we have looked at some reports. We've talked to some relatives, and we appreciate them sharing their information with us. But we looked at some different reports, and the first thing I noticed was, well, let's continue before I jump to that. This gentleman, who I use gentleman loosely, this person, JW, has not only had somebody die on his property before, he has a criminal record as long as my arm. So does his family that's there with him. We also know that he's been arrested after this situation for violence after this situation in a different case. So we've got a man who's violent, who has a criminal record, who has a history of drug use and perhaps drug use and maybe distribution. We're not sure. We've also had someone who has a history of people dying on their property. And then we're going to take it a step further just to let you see what kind of person this JW is. He also likes to put racial slurs on his Facebook page. Publicly, Facebook page, he likes to make racial slurs, and some people have labeled him a white supremacist. I have studied cases with white supremacists, and their dark psychology is so evil and wicked. It's mind-blowing, okay? So I watched some videos with this person talking. I don't necessarily think he's a white supremacist. I think he's a drug addict. I think he's probably racist. But white supremacists, like as in tied into some organization, I'm not sure about. But this person has admitted in court that yes, he does put racial slurs on Facebook. And to me, that just makes my blood boil, because I don't understand that kind of thing. I was raised in church, the whole Sunday school song, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. I don't care if you're purple with pink polka dots. You're a human being. You're valuable. Somebody should have crawled up in that crawl space of an attic with that boy and held his hand as he was dying. Somebody should have been there to do CPR while somebody else called 911. Somebody should have put some effort in. And then, if that's not bad enough, we're going to find out that they didn't put the effort in the justice system either. Okay. So they have automatically got this phone call from JW. JW says, and where that's what they've run with. Okay. When police get on the scene, they make a note that JW's eyes were red as if he had been crying. Now, to me, that's nonsense. I've read lots of police reports, lots of autopsy reports. I've read all these things in some very disturbing cases, and never once does a police officer make note of something like that. It's almost as if the officer is trying to provide an alibi or back up the man's alibi. Girls, what do you think of that? Do you think to me, that's almost like he's trying to validate the man's alibi, which is not the police officer's job. What do you think, girls?
I agree. It's not the policeman's job, and that alibi, I even question that.
Exactly. Okay, so Tammy, you have something to say before we jump into what we found out?
In that state of mind, people don't even have time to think about it. I don't think they really react that way that quick until they sit back and think about it. So I don't think he would be crying.
Well, if he was crying, you would have heard it on the call. According to reports, the call came in at 3:01 a.m. The officer was on the scene by 3:12. So the officer was obviously only 11 minutes away. When did JW have his ball fest? It wasn't on the call. So somewhere in that 11 minutes, then he has his meltdown and balls. I have a hard time figuring that out. So also you come in, you see these reports, you find out that the house is cleaned. Everything's cleaned. And so you have these teenagers who are supposedly having this party, these teenagers and older teens, 19, somewhere around there. You have this group of people having a party, but then it almost looks like things have been cleaned up before the officer gets there. So I'm thinking, okay, that's another piece that we need to put in our arsenal and just let's sit and think about for a minute. If that's not disturbing enough, we look through these things and we find out, okay, why is this boy going 90 minutes from home to a party of someone he doesn't know? He's going with a friend who does know, okay, or someone he used to know, kind of thing. Because according to some things I've read, the mother didn't actually know these people well, but it was kind of somebody from his old stomping grounds kind of thing. So so he's going to a party 90 minutes away. He ends up in a white man's house who's been labeled a white supremacist, and absolutely he's never denied that, because you put all these things online and there's some things that he has lashed out and denied and tried to control the narrative and everything, but he's never once outright said, no, I'm not. And I'm thinking, okay. Something else, another hard spoonful to swallow there. You would think that was the first thing you'd say. No, that's not me. I'm not, but that he hasn't, and so that lack of denial makes you question things. So, anyway, so we're continuing on. The officer gets to the property, and through the reports, it says that not only was Derontae in the attic, but it kind of explains what the attic was. The attic, there was an upstairs, and in that upstairs bedroom, in that closet, was access to the attic. So you go upstairs into the bedroom's closet, and then you can go up into an attic that has no floor. So the officer made notes that he was having to kind of go walk on the different boards, trying to step across things because there was no floor. He had to. And so I'm thinking, why was Derontae up there? Why would anyone go up there ever? Okay, so this is where this boy ends up losing his life, up there. Now we know for a fact that there was somebody else up there with him. Now there's been conflicting reports, and if you read all the different news articles and different podcasts and things, you get conflicting reports on that. But there was actually somebody there. And we know who that person was. And that person just happened to be gone from the scene when the officer showed up. How convenient. Now, so what we have now, we've got a deceased football player in the attic of a perhaps a white supremacist, and we think, okay, somebody's going to question this. They take the boy down. They're going to do their autopsy. Justice is going to prevail. This is 2024. Back then it was 2021. This is the modern era. Nobody can get away with stuff like this anymore, right? This is what we believe. We think, okay, we've got forensics, we've got this, we got that. Nobody's going to get away with anything. Justice is going to prevail, but it doesn't. They immediately label it, and then they also they call in. There was some reports that said that of course, the family's questioning this. You're thinking, this is flat out insane. This is not a boy that would do this. This is not a boy who was suffering mental health issues. This is not. He had no reason for this. So why? You think, okay, they're wrong. So everybody starts questioning, and according to all these different other reports and websites, the Missouri Highway Patrol stepped in and reinvestigated and verified the original autopsy that, yes. Well, here's the problem with that. I called the Missouri Highway Patrol, Troop E, which is the troop that handles that county, and I talked to them yesterday. And I asked them about this case. I said, one question was, is it closed or is it open? Because you have some people saying, well, it's a closed case. Okay, then give us all the details. Okay. They won't give you the details. Okay. So you ask again, and they're like, well, we can't give you details on an active investigation. You just said it's closed. So is it closed or is it open? Or have you guys just written this off and not doing your job anymore? Okay, we'll just leave that out there hanging, and you can figure that one out for yourself. So here, what we're doing and now is we're thinking, okay, the autopsy says. Now the Missouri Highway Patrol has come in and verified it. They have reinvestigated, right? I mean, that's what everybody's saying online, that, well, this has been verified by a second source. I talked to the Missouri Highway Patrol. They didn't reinvestigate anything. Let me say that again. They didn't reinvestigate anything. They weren't brought in as somebody to back up their findings. They came in, they actually offered their assistance because that county doesn't have all the resources it needs. And it's a standard practice for rural counties and police departments. If they don't have a crime lab, if they don't have a DNA testing, if they don't have these things, they send it on up to the Missouri Highway Patrol. So these people are being led to believe that, hey, we found out with our autopsy that it was, and we've got a second opinion. Okay. Unfortunately, the fact that they're allowing they're assisting on a case, or they're allowing this county to use some of their facilities, that's not backing somebody up or getting a second opinion or reinvestigating. That's standard practice. That isn't anything. So these family members have been told, well, hey, we came up with, and we got a double check here. We've already got a second opinion, so you're wrong. Well, I talked to the Missouri Highway Patrol, and they said, no, we didn't reinvestigate that case. We assisted on that case because they don't have the facilities that we need. Girls, what do you think about that? I'm going to get a sip of my coffee.
I'm wondering why the Highway Patrol confirmed that they could surely.
Well, see, when I talked to that officer, he wouldn't say that they confirmed anything. See, he wouldn't directly tell me that they confirmed anything. He said, we did not reinvestigate anything on that case. We offered our assistance because they don't. They're a smaller police department that doesn't have everything they need. So they didn't necessarily come in and say, hey, we validate all of these findings. So this is where I get upset, because I'm sitting here going, these family members are being told, hey, our coroner approved it, and we went ahead and took it to another district, to the Missouri Highway Patrol, and they verified it too. So we got two people backing us up. That's not what happened, And so this is what we need to understand. There was a second autopsy done, but it was because the family ordered it. And this is what we want to understand. When it comes down to it, you've got a boy that is right-handed and has his right hand in a cast. Okay. His right hand's in a cast. He's supposed to be holding this gun. And we did find the gun and get the information on that. But what I was curious about, and this is what what really upsets me. It is, we've got the gun here. I've got all the specs on the gun. Okay. So this gun is 6.9 inches long. So it's not huge. But it weighs a little over 2 pounds. And the barrel length is 2.8 inches. So the barrel's not too long. So it's a smaller gun. But what I'm asking is, why would he shoot himself with his non-dominant hand? Because the wounds in the autopsy were on the left side of his head. Okay. So if the wounds were on the left side, then why would he do that? We already know that he didn't do it through his right hand because his right hand was in a cast. Okay. So we're thinking, okay, this is not making sense. So I'm going to stop, because we got so many more questions to go by. I'm just going to stop. Girls, I want you to comment. We'll start with Tammy. What do you think up to this point? I'm going to check on some comments. I'm getting a whole bunch of comments come in. Tammy, what do you think on this? Do you think that this is legitimate? Do you think that they actually did their job and investigated this properly? Or do you think that perhaps this rural police department is not doing a thorough job on this?
I don't think they did their job at all.
Me neither. I was trying to be nice.
The more you get into it, the more you see.
Exactly. Now, this is something else I want to talk about too. Cricket, what do you say?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, right from the get-go, seemed like the simplest thing. We're going to go with it, and then we don't have to do anything else. Just wipe our hands of it.
Exactly. Now, go ahead, Tammy.
About the highway patrol,
yeah.
On one of the reports, it said, after reviewing the pictures and all information regarding the case, it says the Missouri State Highway Patrol agreed that the gunshot wound to Martin's head was on one of their reports. So I'm wondering why they said that.
Yeah, and then on the call, they tell me that they didn't actually reinvestigate anything. And so this is why I'm like, and this is the thing. I'm going to read through the comments and shout out to some people. But this is why I'm just laying it out as what we found. And I'm going to let you guys come to your own conclusions, because I'm a child of the 80s and I was taught to take in information and use my brain to come to a conclusion. I wasn't taught to be spoon-fed things. So I'm telling you what we found. And then I'm hoping that you're intelligent enough to figure out what's going on in this case, because this child was robbed of his life. This mother was robbed of watching her son achieve something great. This grandma was robbed of watching her grandson achieve something great. One day he might have grown up and got married. He may have had grandkids. All of this was stripped from this family. And those that were called to serve and protect, who took an oath to serve and protect, are not serving this case. They get all into the protect. But this is what, when they say serve and protect, this is what the word serve means. You're supposed to do your due diligence. You're supposed to show empathy and compassion. You're supposed to do everything you can to help the family during this horrendous time. That's part of the service of a law officer. Okay. And so it's more than having a badge and a gun and doing all of the protection. It's their service, and they're not doing their service in this case. Okay, so we're going to talk to some of the comments real quick. Venus, hello. I like your fedoras. Yeah, I got them back on. I used to wear them all the time, but now I kind of stopped when I was doing more victims advocacy, and now I've got them back that I'm chasing cold cases. Miss Lotz, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you joining us and going through this with us. Miss Lotz says he's lying. Absolutely. W.D. Smith, hi, yeah. Let me guess, this happened in some redneck town. Absolutely. Supposedly a little over 4,000 people. Was the gun a revolver? I'm tongue-tied today. Revolver or semi-automatic? Any idea on the caliber? I'm going to give you guys exactly what kind of gun it was. It's an it's an Accutech AT-38-101. So, gun. I don't know if you can see it here. Might be easier if I found one. I'll just find it online, and I'll share it here in a little bit. So the caliber is, I believe, 38. Is it 38? I believe it is.
I think it said a 38.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It says 38. I just took a couple screenshots on my phone, so I was like, I'm not sure. And so this is where I'm like, I think so. I can't remember.
I have it here.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I'm trying to find where it says it at.
I believe it's a 38.
Yeah, well, let me see. I'm showing the picture. I'm trying to get the exact.
Mm-hmm. And so this is what disturbs me while you're looking for that. So let me go check on Facebook, see if we got comments over there. I've got quite a few people watching in several different places. I really appreciate it. Please continue to the end, because I am going to do two things. I am going to ask you to do something to help in this case. So many cases we cover, and there's nothing really we can do but raise publicity, about the case. But this is one case that you can, as an audience member, do something, and we're going to ask you to do that. But I'm also going to give away a free book for somebody who's watched till the end. Just to keep you watching till the end, because I find that in so many cases we just feel helpless because we can't do nothing about it. But this one, there is something you can do. Okay, so while you're looking for the gun, Tammy, did you find the gun?
I'm seeing the pictures, and I'm seeing the ID number and the date and the time, the subject type and the image. And somewhere earlier, I thought I saw 38 on there, but I'm not seeing it now, but I'm pretty sure it was a 38 caliber.
Well, I was doing all kinds of research and snapping screenshots and texting them to you. And so it's hard to keep them all straight. But this is what I want people to understand. We're going to dive into the autopsy here in just a minute. But the person that took him to this party, from what I understand, is also the person that was in that attic with him, who also ran out after the shot was heard. And this person was arrested later for something else. But it doesn't seem like this person's being held accountable for anything either. So you've got two suspicious characters, quite a few of them, in this case, and yet nothing's really been done. So did you find the gun stuff?
Well, I saw 38. Maybe it was on a different report, but I'm seeing the pictures and everything.
Okay.
That, from the Madison County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
That thing that you sent me. I saw 38 on there at one time, and now I don't know why it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to send it to myself so I can screen share it. I think's what I'm going to do. Okay. So we want to understand that the family didn't believe in suicide from the beginning, and we didn't believe. Does anybody? We'll just do a quick rundown. We'll do a little vote because this is supposed to be a democracy. Do any of you think that this was so far?
No.
With what I've showed you. Comments, please send your comments in because I'm still looking for the gun while I'm going. So let me see that. Do you anybody? If you believe it, that's fine. I want to hear it because so far nobody I've talked to about this case believes it is. Okay, I'm just going to type it in and then we'll find.
And to me, it seems strange. How did he even know that attic was there? You know, he'd never been to that house. Why would he go through the bedroom and find the attic? He never even been there.
No. And they also said, we'll get into what they found in the autopsy, and then what they found in the second autopsy, and my questions about them. Okay, Joanne has very interesting subject. Okay, all right. Okay. Kimberly says a gun that we've never seen, not even at the coroner's inquest. So they said they've never even seen this gun. And we're gonna find out who gave it to them. And WD says no, it doesn't sound plausible. No. Everybody so far, no. Yep. Okay. I'm curious. You know, I want to know if you think that I'm just flat out wrong here. Feel free to tell me. I'm big enough to take it. Okay, so I'm going to do another screen share. I've got the gun pulled up here. This is not the gun. It's just obviously a gun like it that I found for sale on a website. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Girls, let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Yeah.
This is the same make and model of a gun that was supposedly used in this. Okay. This gives you all of the specs of it. And I'm curious because it's 6.9 inches long. So you're going to have to be able to really twist your wrist to get that where it needs to be, and with your your non-dominant hand. So also, I would like to know trajectory, because to me, from what I've seen in the autopsy, that isn't in the right trajectory, because it would be at an up angle, not a down angle or a straight angle. It would be more, and I didn't see a lot of that. So I'd like to know what happened there. But we're also talking that this is, when it comes down to weight, it's a little over 2 pounds. Okay. So this is the gun we're talking about right here. All right. So we're going to get out of that. And Venus says, what have the authorities done about this so far? Do they have any leads? Venus, that is the problem. They have done nothing. So they ended up getting a second autopsy done. And then a jury was called to look over the case and the facts to see if this was not. And that jury inquest said no. That second autopsy says death by violence. WD gives us a little education on the gun. He says that's a 380 rather than a 38, same as the Bursa I have. A 380 is actually a 9mm short. Thank you for that information. Joanne says, do you think race had anything to do with it? I don't think, I honestly thought it was a racial thing to begin with, and I'm not sure that it's not. But once you find out how podunk this police department is and how many cases that they have done this crap on, you're thinking, I don't think they give a crap about their citizens at all. But no, I know for a fact if you've got someone, race has to be involved, because he's the only African American there, and he is in a man's house who likes to put racial slurs online and doesn't apologize for it. And I'm thinking, so yeah, I do believe race is involved in it. along with a bunch of other things too. I think, the person's house that he was in, the man has been labeled a white supremacist online. He's never refuted that. So in that situation, yeah, I think race is involved. But why isn't the police department doing something? I'm sitting here. I just get so angry when I look at this. I'm just, I try really hard not to get emotional, but this one really, it's hard. It's real hard. Maybe it's because I have a son so close to this age. Sorry guys, somebody say something.
I
Yeah,
screenshotted that picture and sent it to you.
Did
Might
you?
be- enlarge it and see it on there? Yeah, because
Okay.
I don't see anywhere where it says 3 or 38, but I guess maybe it was a different report that actually said what it was. But the one I'm
Yeah.
looking at right now, it just has pictures and some technical stuff, but I don't see where it says 38. But anyway, I did send it to you.
Okay.
If you want to pull it up on your
Okay.
phone. And you can see
WD
it.
says, I heard someone say Madison County, I suspect near Huntsville, Alabama. Madison County is in Missouri. I'm not sure how close Huntsville, Alabama is. But he says the gun Celtic AT380. Perfect. Thank you. WD, there's another couple guns I'm looking for on some cold cases. If you want to message me after the show, you might have some information on a couple guns I'm trying to find information on. He seems to be good at all that. Okay. So let's get back to it. Now we're to the point of the autopsy. First autopsy says suicide and that he has a small amount of methamphetamines in his system. Okay. This is strange because this is a child who doesn't have any history of drug use before. He is taken back to the place that he went to high school by someone he used to know. He ends up at a house of where there has been a lot of violence and drug use in the past and has a history of the people that live there. He's taken there. I don't know why or how he ends up with meth in his system. They said that he was freaking out and he shot himself. Okay, that was one report, one witness statement. Now you're going to also come out and find one witness says that that Derontae was feeling uncomfortable, and rightly so. He's an African-American child in a very dangerous environment with people who are racist, against his nationality and against him. And so he's starting to feel uncomfortable. So they said they gave him a gun. And I'm like, the same person who brought him supposedly gave him the gun, according to one witness statement and one report. So if this is true, why the heck didn't you put your friend in the car, drive him to grandma's house 30 minutes away, and come back to the party? If you were so, I have to stay at the party, I don't want to leave. I'm thinking you've got a 19-year-old black man who is getting uncomfortable because of the environment he's in. If you were any kind of friend, you would have got him out of the environment. Right? Would you not? Would you not have said, okay, well, his grandma lives 30 minutes away. I'm just going to run him over there, and then I'll come back to this party that's oh so important. Okay? So I'm asking, why did that person decide it was smart to give him a gun if he's uncomfortable? Okay? If he's uncomfortable, take him home. Okay? So this is what's bothering me on top of everything else. So instead of this, and we don't know that Derontae was paranoid or anything. To me, we don't even know. According to me, in everything that I've seen so far with all of this so-called investigation, they could give him a shot of something. They could have given him a hot shot. He didn't die fast enough, so they shot him in the head. That's crude and horrible, and I hate to even say that, but we don't know that. We don't know, and our job is to sit here and speculate and wonder what the heck happened and try to make a public outcry and ask people to help us. But the people that are their job is to find out the truth aren't doing anything. And so the family ordered another autopsy, which I have no idea how much that cost them. But they had to get an autopsy, a second one. And the second autopsy says death by violence. And the reason being is they went, and the bad thing is the second autopsy couldn't be as thorough as they would want to be because he was embalmed immediately after the first autopsy. Nobody gave permission for that, but he was immediately embalmed after the first autopsy. Okay. And then by the second autopsy, they had to deal with all that. Okay. But they looked at the wound, the head wound of this boy, and they noticed that there were some key things missing from this head wound, that if it had been, there should have been there. For one, you're going to get an imprint of the barrel of that gun because it's going to kick and it's going to hit. Okay. You're going to have that imprint. It's not there. You're going to have burning of the skin. It's not there. You're going to have soot. It's not there. You're going to have these little speckles of red as it, because when a bullet comes out, there's fire. It's not just a projectile. There's a lot of power behind it, and you've got gunpowder and everything. It's going to leave a mark. None of those things, let me say that again, none of those things were present on that boy's head. None. And so they ruled, because of that gun couldn't have been close to that boy's head. It had to be about 2 to 3 feet away, at least. Or those things would have been present. If it was within a foot, you would still had the burning. You would have still had some soot. The closer it got, the more of those things you would see. Okay. But basically that second autopsy, the coroner said, it couldn't have been within 2 foot of Derontae's head. So tell me this, how are you going to shoot a gun with your non-dominant hand 2 foot away? You can't. Okay. Your arm's not that stinking long. Okay. So, if that's not enough, and this is what's so disturbing, that's not enough to make you question, you're not listening. But there's more. The first coroner has had their work put in question on other cases where they immediately labeled obvious homicides as to get them off the books. So you have a coroner who's had their work questioned before for shoddy police work, and this is the coroner that did the first autopsy on Derontae. Okay, so if that's not enough to upset you, I'm going to really tick you off tonight. I really, really am. And if I don't, then you need to check your empathy levels. I'm telling you. So the coroner has already been questioned for doing shoddy police work. Okay. You'll also find in several different incidences throughout this case that things just happened to not work, or they just didn't get this recorded, or then they didn't get that recorded. There's so many different things that is just insane. Well, this broke down and we didn't get it fixed for 6 months, or there's always some excuse. But this is a coroner who's had their work questioned before, and now that's being questioned again. Okay. Then, so they said, okay, we're going to call in a jury of 6 people. These 6 people look over all of this stuff, and they agree with the second autopsy and says this is death by violence. So what do you guys think is going to happen? What should happen? Somebody tell me in the comments, what should happen in this case? What do you think would have happened? Kim, let's see. Miss Lott says it's our belief that they drugged him. Absolutely. He wasn't a kid that had that propensity. He had goals, he had plans, he had 2 jobs at one point. He was no, that's absolutely, I agree. Let's see. WD says, yep, I study firearms, wrote a book about, cool. You'll have to tell me more about that in Messenger about your book. I'm in Tennessee, about 60 miles northwest of Huntsville. Madison County is north WD, we're talking Madison County, Missouri, not Madison County, Alabama. Yeah, we're talking about Missouri. Yeah. Okay, so I've got more messages. Sorry, we're going live on several different places, so I'm trying to catch all the comments as I can. All right, so let's, girls, you have a comment? I'm not getting my coffee drunk very much. I'm talking.
I did find it on another page. It said it's an Accutech auto loading pistol .380. So is that the same as a 38 or? Anyway, it said .380 caliber.
He says no, there's a difference between a 380 and a 38. So,
Okay.
yeah. So it's a little bit different, he says. So we will go into that. Okay. Cricket, you have any comments before we go into the next? As if this isn't enough?
Yeah, I mean, like, they should have taken clothes from everybody in that house to test for gunpowder. I mean, just so much, everyone should have been questioned, lie detected, everything. Nothing was done. And
the only lie detector that detection that we know of was given to JW, and it was administered by a non-official, non-certified. It was just a trooper. It wasn't a certified person, that a polygraph examiner. You have to have a certified polygraph examiner to read the results, and it wasn't done by that. It was just done by a trooper. So
yeah,
I tried to call a few places and find out what the law was in Missouri. But everything I found so far, you have to have a certified examiner there. You don't just have an officer.
Yeah,
so,
and with those that little test that he did, I mean, they could have just said he passed.
Well, and in all reality, they might as well have. That's what they've done for everything else. I'm like,
exactly.
You haven't done anything else, so what the heck, And this is what really bothers me. If that wasn't enough to drive you insane, wondering what the heck's going on in this county, I'm going to read you a statistic that I found, and this is Missouri. We're not talking Alabama. We're talking Missouri. And we're talking someplace that's only got a little over 4,000 people, 4,000 permanent residents. Okay, so we're not talking about a big place. I asked, what is the crime rate in Fredericktown, Missouri? And this is, I'm going to read it verbatim. The crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents. Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, from the smallest towns to the very largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 32. And we're talking about a small town of 4,000 people. And so you are going to be victimized if you stay there. That's just all there is to it. And you think, holy crap, what is law enforcement doing? How is this possible? And in reality, they're not doing a whole lot. And once you start reading about it, you're going to find out that there are tons of cases from this area. I'm trying to look it up now. Did you guys count when I sent you that corruption group? There is a group called Expose Corruption of Madison County, Missouri. And it has a list. Let me look here. Here we go. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 cases listed on this website right now that are either unsolved or mislabeled or something. They're not getting justice in 12 cases. And I guarantee if you dig in, you'll find there's even more. So we're talking about a town that a place that is very rural, very small. You would think, probably by just the looks of it, it's a safe place to be. It's, it's just another small town, maybe have some poverty problems or something like that. But it says right there that it is one of the highest crime rates in the entire U.S. And that's going up against places like Chicago. That's insane. Why isn't somebody doing something? I just don't. Someone says, Miss Lutz says, The gun they say Derontae shot himself with only had one bullet in the chamber and no magazine. Oh, that's convenient. Venus says it also sounds as there's very little cooperation from authorities. They're not very experienced. The thing is if you're not experienced and your county or your town is that bad on the crime statistics, get the freaking experience. Take the online course. Do something. Instead of, I read some different things from different locals that had posted things, and they said it just seems like the police department don't really care. They just let it all sort itself out. And I'm like, it ain't sorting nothing. There's you some Southern slang. It ain't sorting nothing, but that I'm like, and so this is what's so disturbing. Even after the jury said that this was death by violence, and the second autopsy said death by violence, and so called the Missouri Department, the Missouri Highway Patrol came in and everything, nobody's done anything. The case isn't reopened. The case isn't being investigated. Nobody seems to be doing anything. I know, I'm sure, I wasn't sure if it was a year ago or a year and a half ago, whatever. They even tried to approach the FBI, and it doesn't seem like the FBI's taking it on. The only hope that I have when it comes to the FBI, they're not going to let you know that they're in your backyard. They keep everything close to the chest, and you won't know that they're after you until they arrest you. So I'm hoping, but it doesn't look like anything's happening there either. There's that spark of naive hope that thinks, please be doing something behind the scenes. But you're hoping, you still have that childish, naive hope that somebody's gonna stand up and do what's right. And I just hope in this case that somebody is, but according to the evidence, nobody is. And so that's where we're going to be talking. I've got a few more comments. Girls, you go ahead and let me know just kind of some closing things. What do we need to talk about? What have I missed? Because there's so much more I could talk about this case. In fact, we are going to make a podcast series of at least 2 episodes, maybe 3, because there's 12 cases in this town that are just as terrible and horrific as Derontae's, and nobody's doing anything on them either. So we're gonna do a whole corruption series on this town for the podcast. But I wanted to do every Tuesday night. I'm going to go over a case, and we just kind of have to touch on the high points because we've only got a little over an hour to get it done. But we're getting close to we're right at the hour. So girls, let me know what you think. I'm going to read through some comments and then we'll tell the audience what they can do to help.
In my opinion, I feel like if this was not initially a setup, once he got there, he was trapped.
Yeah.
With no way out.
Yeah. See, that's what I think. You have to wonder the culpability of everyone involved. Was it something that they planned this and this was a setup and he was the only African American invited on purpose? Or was this just the way it turned out? No, but I do have one thing I want to say. Joanne says, could the family call in a more experienced private investigator from a large city? I don't know. That would probably be the next step in things. Someone else says, in Tennessee, if I'm right, the TBI investigates all questionable deaths. I believe I've read that somewhere too. Yes. Okay. This is one thing I wanted to point out, and I don't know. Now, let me explain to you what an autopsy is actually. An autopsy is a basic report of the state of a human body. Okay. From the skin down, I mean, all the way down to the bone, everything. They are supposed to report every single thing that body, whatever state it's in. Okay. So I don't care if you had heart surgery 10 years ago, the scars should be reported on that autopsy. And if it's not, the coroner is doing shoddy work and not doing his job. So my curious mind thinks, is this something that in the original autopsy, I haven't got to see that one, was his surgery scars mentioned? Okay. If his surgery scars are not mentioned, there is flat out proof that this person's not doing their job. And legally, I believe that autopsy could be thrown out. Because I'm not an attorney, I'm just saying I have written about 300 cases. So I've learned some patterns over time. But basically, I believe if that original autopsy doesn't report every single thing, which is what it's supposed to be, they're not supposed to necessarily, come to any conclusions or anything till the end or anything. They are supposed to report the state of that body, everything. So if that's not on the first autopsy, I think there's a legal right that they have to throw it out. And if that first one is thrown out, then the only one left to fight with is the death by violence. So I'm not sure, Kimberly, if you've already gone down that road, but if you haven't, you might check into that, because I believe if they haven't mentioned that, that's right there. That's something you can legally throw it out. I'm pretty sure. Like I said, I'm not an attorney. Okay, what else, girls, do we need to talk about before we get?
Well, I just want to toss out, just as a warning, when it comes to private investigators, you still have to be careful, check into them, because I've had cases, I believe Sonova too, where private investigators take advantage of the families.
Right. The case I'm working on so publicly right now is got the same thing. They stole everything out of the deceased website, out of the deceased estate, and then ran off.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am posting in the comments of this. I'm posting. I'm posting. There is Derontae's website. There, justiceforderontae.com. I want you guys. I'm going to share my screen real quick so you guys can see this. And like I said, you can dive into this case even more. We've talked about it for an hour, but there's so much more you can go into. It's just horrible. I need you guys all that's watching. I need you to go to justiceforderontae.com, and I need you to scroll down on that front page right here till you get to these two different colored boxes. Okay. There's action 1. Demand an independent investigation. Tell the Department of Justice to uncover the truth. Okay. U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. There's 2 phone numbers you can call, or here's an email. Okay. I want you guys, everyone that's watching, I want you to take a moment to do this for the family. Okay. The second one, action number 2, you report Derontae's death to the FBI Hate Crimes Division. Okay. So there's the Missouri office phone number. There's the national office phone number. And then there's the tips. So if you are wanting to do it online, there's that. So these are 2 actions that I'm asking you as an audience to do, because if they get 1,000 people reporting this, throwing a fit, they get 10,000 people doing it, they will have to. We can force their hand into doing this. And this is what it's terrible that we have to do this, but this is what we are doing. The next one I want you guys to look at, there's a Facebook group here that I am going to post a Facebook group here. And those of you that want to follow along, this is the corruption Facebook group that has been established to try to expose the corruption out of this Madison County, Missouri. I want you guys to go. I want you to join. I want you to get involved, and I want you to share it. Okay. So everybody that's watching can do those 2 things or those 3 things to help out in this case. And like I said, so many cases we cover, we're just trying to raise publicity. We can't actually do anything else. But in this case, there are some things that we can do, and I'm asking you to step forward. If this case has touched you in any way, I ask you to do that. Okay, final comments, girls, before I give away a book. Miss Lott says no, we haven't. Okay, go ahead.
There was also the issue of the cell phone. Wasn't the
Yeah,
cell
there
phone
are
wipe
so many
claim?
cases that this is what's so disturbing. We haven't even got to that part. Why was the cell phone returned to the family wiped? Why was the data wiped off of it? Why was the clothes and cast taken from why wasn't all of his personal effects returned to the grandma or the mother? Why? His clothes, his shoes, his wallet, his keys, his phone, everything that he has, it should have been in a bag labeled evidence and returned. Because see, technically this case is supposedly closed, so they have no reason to hang on to it. Why isn't it returned? And why would a cast not be returned? Or why was it not included in anything? That was something else. If they didn't mention the cast I want to know the crime scene photos. Was the cast anywhere in the crime scene photos? Did they hide the cast? Did they take the cast away? When they, was this staged and they took the cast away so I don't know. Nothing in this case makes sense. Nothing makes sense. Kimberly, Miss Lott says, no, we haven't. We will check into it. You talking about the autopsy thing or the private investigator? The private investigator, I'd say, like Cricket said, be careful, because technically there's not a lot of governing bodies to manage private investigators. So you really want to check out their background and check out the cases that they have worked and see what kind of conclusions they brought in and all that, because there are a lot of charlatans out there. Guys, next Tuesday night, we're going to be back here talking about a different case. I want you guys to tell me in the comments how many of you guys have been following the Derontae Martin case, and how many of you guys seen the disturbing results from the FBI. How many of you guys have seen that recently? Today we are talking about what happened with the Derontae Martin case when the FBI has so-called gotten involved. Now, for those of you that haven't been following this and you want to know what's going on, I have a YouTube video that I can post the link. Or Cricket, you or Tammy, if you want to go grab the link and put it in a comment, that would be great. Grab the link to my Derontae Martin YouTube video if you don't mind. Now, that video we go over, and that was the beginning of my deep dive into the rabbit hole of corruption around Madison County. Derontae was the first one. And those of you can't see it because it's behind, along my wall, I've got a murder board started with all the strings and everything, connecting everything. And I'm going to run out of wall space by the time I get out of Madison County. It's just dreadful. But Derontae Martin, just for an overview, he was brought in to a person's house by a former friend, someone that he didn't know very well. He was brought into that house. He was uncomfortable and wanted to leave. His so-called friend didn't allow him to leave. And then all of a sudden, he ends up shot to death in the attic of this house in a crawl space. Nobody seems to consider the fact that his dominant arm was in a cast. Nobody seems to consider the fact that, there was at least one, perhaps two other so-called slayings at this house. And what we have to avoid the S word for YouTube. But basically, today we were going over some information, and the FBI has made a public announcement that Derontae Martin was the shooter. This was something he did himself, and they have basically said, we agree with law enforcement. Now, here is the problem, and this is what I want you guys to know. I knew from the beginning that this was a likely outcome. Now, I got all kinds of messages when the news came out. Everybody was upset. Everybody was really disturbed and heartbroken. I was not surprised. I was not surprised at all. because you have to kind of understand how the FBI works. And you have to understand that this case it's only one piece of a giant corruption puzzle. Okay. And we handed the FBI hate crimes division one piece of a puzzle. They said, oh, it's not a hate crime. He did it to himself, and they're done. Now, I guarantee you, there's a 99% chance that no FBI boots ever hit the ground in Madison County. That's not the way they do things. There are massive amounts of FBI agents, and you think, okay, they're going to just swoop in and take care of things, but that's not the way it works. Okay, the FBI can only take so many cases, so they have gatekeepers. And these are basically FBI agents that are at a desk. They're pencil pushers, basically. They go through files, they look at cases, and they are trying to decide which cases to take and sink FBI resources into. Okay. Now, when this was sent in as a hate crime, I had a feeling that they didn't have enough evidence to prove that. So they were just going to dismiss it. Now, I do believe that there is a division in the FBI that can help us if we can get their attention. So I already have a game plan in mind. I have done this kind of thing before. I have written about over 300 cases. I have helped bring in FBI. I've helped bring closure to 4 cases. I have done all kinds of things. If you do some research into my history, you'll find that I've done this before. And so I wanted to get online today and encourage you, because the game's not over yet. The fight's not won. You're talking to a little Texas rebel who firmly believes in all of the legends and stories of the Alamo. You know, this fight's not over. Santana is and his troops are marching onto the Alamo right now. Okay. But this is not time to back up. This is not time to stop. This is time to lock and load and get ready for a battle. Okay, so we're not done. Okay, so this is the first thing I want you guys to understand. We're not done. Sure, they have dismissed this as self-inflicted. They have dismissed this, and they aren't going to look at it. Okay, that's okay. We're not done. Okay, this is what we need to understand. The FBI is not interested in one-off cases. And this is where we need to understand that they're looking for giant cases. Now, if Derontae's case had ties to some racist terrorist organization like the Klan or something like that, then they may have paid attention. And unfortunately, they chose not to, okay? They had an opportunity to do the right thing, and they chose not to. Now, I want you to get this too. When you see the FBI says that they're agreeing with the local law enforcement, that does not mean they were boots on the ground investigating the case. When they decide to push off a case, they will just reread the police reports, okay? Now, everybody that has studied this case knows that everything that's just in the police report isn't the entire story. Now, for those of you that don't know, there is a gigantic hole in the concept that Derontae did this to himself. That hole has a name. That name is J.P. Parton. Okay? J.P. Parton told people that Derontae was murdered. This was not done by his own hand. He was murdered. He was also going to testify. He made this publicly available knowledge. He knew that this boy had been killed. He didn't do this. He was murdered. Okay? He told people, when the jury inquest comes, I'm going to testify and tell them the truth. Okay? J.P. Parton went missing 3 weeks later. Okay? So you cannot take Derontae Martin and say that this was self-inflicted. You can't say that he did this to himself. There's a gigantic hole in that story that can never be closed until you take care of J.P. Parton. Now, if you're looking through the police reports, see all those police reports, they tie everything up real neat in a little bow. You know, they're going to dot their I's and cross their T's, and they're going to make those papers look nice. Okay. But we know that that's not the whole story. There is so much more information out there besides the story that is in the police reports. Okay. So until they actually close the JP Parton story, they cannot close. They cannot say that this was a done deal. There's no, without any reasonable doubt, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt that he did this to himself. Okay. You cannot say that without addressing the whole elephant in the room, which is JP Parton. JP Parton is gone. Nobody knows what happened to him. Nobody can find him. And he was going to tell the truth. So we know the truth. Now, the FBI has sided with the law enforcement theory on things, but that doesn't mean we need to quit. Now, this is what we need to understand. There is a division in the FBI that can help us, and that is the Public Corruption Division, okay? The way you get their attention, and this is something, like I said, I've helped bring in FBI on other cases. I know how it's done. The way you do this, you don't send them any individual case. And this is going to sound dreadful. They don't care about any one of these cases in Madison County. They don't care about any one. But if we can take them, compile them all together, okay, show how they're all interconnected, then that is the key that we need to unlock the door to get the help we need, okay? So what I plan on doing, and I'm taking my time, I've been knocking down one case at a time every Tuesday, one case at a time. The reason why I'm taking time, I want my team to have time to research, find all of the information that we can find to build a case on each individual one. And then each individual one connects to the other one. I was talking to one of my assistants, and I said, I don't know when I'm ever going to get to the bottom of this cesspool called Madison County, because I opened one case and it's connected to 5 more, you know? And so we're not just talking about the 15 cases of mysterious deaths or missing people. I'm talking, I've got another half a dozen public corruption cases where you have law enforcement being arrested for doing things they're not supposed to be doing. You've got them put in jail for pedophilia. You've got them put in jail for assaulting a 14-year-old girl during an interrogation. You've got them stealing money from the county. You've got all of these public corruption cases that are very public knowledge. Okay. So the plan is, and this is what I want you guys to understand. We are not done yet. We are going to systematically knock one out every week. We're going to get it done. And then we're going to build a case. We're going to give them the entire puzzle. Okay. We gave them one piece, Derontae Martin's piece, and we said, here it is. Now they tried to stick it into another puzzle that it doesn't belong. It doesn't belong in that puzzle. It belongs in a massive puzzle of corruption. Now, I guarantee you, whoever looked into this case didn't ever hear anything about JP Parton, okay? And if they did, they couldn't in good conscience write this case off. So that tells me they didn't investigate it. They haven't been doing this. Now, when you're wanting to target the FBI and try to get their attention, it helps when you know each division specializes in a specific type of case. They have basic knowledge on cases for different types of things, but each division has a specialty of a perfect little type of case, okay? So what you need to do is you need to find what those gatekeepers are looking for and provide that to them, okay? So basically the gatekeepers of the Public Corruption Division, they are looking for a pattern of corruption over a long period of time. And that is what I'm planning on trying to establish, okay? We need to establish that, look, you may not agree with us on Derontae's case, but check out JP Parton. Check out this one. Check out that one. Check out Jacob Kirkpatrick. Check out all of these cases. You add all of them in there. Then you add in all of the publicly known corruption cases. All of these things, you add them all in there, and then you show that this is established behavior for a very long period of time. That's what gets their attention. Those are the kinds of cases that will get the attention of the gatekeepers and get us some help. Okay, so that is what I'm planning on doing. So I know you guys were very disheartened. You're very angry. You're very upset. You're hurt. You feel betrayed by what has happened so far. I want to encourage you tonight and tell you we're not done. Okay, the fight's not over. It's time to lock and load. We're going to hit it. We're going to hit it hard. Okay, we're not done. Okay, but I also want you to watch yourself. Okay, don't let your anger cause you to do something that they can use against you. Okay, because we're all angry. You know, we all look at those pictures of that young football player and think, what a horrible waste of a life. You know, what they took. You know, what could he have been? What could he have come? You know, I wonder if he could have been one of those with 5 Super Bowl rings. I don't know. We will never know. And that's heart-wrenching to think about that. But I ask you to stand together. I ask you to take that anger and that pain and that fuel, and I want you to bottle it up and use it as fuel to keep pushing forward, to keep in this fight. Don't use the anger to lash out or cause anything that they can use against you. Because if you decide to lash out, even though you may have a right to, okay, nobody says you don't, and nobody says they would blame you. But if you lash out, they will use it against you, okay? We're in a war, and so we've got to be tactical in our behavior, okay? So when we're going through these cases, I want you guys to think about this. I want you to take in all of the information you can find, realize that some of the rumor mill's false, some of the rumor mill's true. You have to realize that there's 3 sides to every story, the truth somewhere in the middle. I want you to take all of this information in and share it amongst the groups, share it amongst the people that are fighting alongside you, okay? Because what's going to happen is we're going to be able to kick up a stink if we band together. We're not out of options yet, okay? We're not out of options. Our biggest option is to build a massive corruption case file and present that to a specific division and a specific agent in that division, okay? If we can do that and we can be compelling enough at it, we can show them that this is something that's gone on for a long time. Now, those of you that have been studying Madison County for a while, you know that there is a website out there, a genealogy website, where someone has taken the time to gather all of the murders and unsolved crime in Madison County since 1880. And you'll realize that this has been a Wild West type of neighborhood since there was a Wild West. So we need to establish this pattern of behavior and establish this over a period of time. And so people like Arctic Fox, he's on there commenting, he's doing the same thing. He's showing each case at a time, each case, how it blends with the next one. That's the kind of thing we need to do. We need to put our heads down. We're focused. We're in the trenches right now. You know, everybody, you know, everything's going crazy around us. We got to get our heads down and focus. And to do that, we have to make sure that we research everything we put out every bit of information that you can verify. If you can't verify it, hang it on, you know, hold on to it a little bit until you can verify it. Try to really get as good information as you can before you make it public. Because if we get too much false information, it can damage the case. So you really want to try to vet your information before you put it out there. So I've gotten tons and tons of comments. I'm going to go through and comment on them. Cricket, do you have anything to add to that while I'm going back through the comments?
I agree with you 100% with, you know, you have to be smart with the anger. use it as wisdom, because we do have to bring all these cases together in order to get the FBI to look at them.
Right. Hello, Kimberly. Thank you for signing on. I've got so many.
I'm glad to hear you saying that, because it's really important. Really important for them to know this and know that they can do something, but they're not finished yet. And how can the FBI not look at all of this? There's just not.
Yeah. The Arctic Fox said, it's got a longer comment, but at the end of it, it says, I don't doubt the FBI gets a lot wrong. I don't necessarily think they get a lot wrong. I think they dismiss too much because they don't give it enough attention. If they paid attention to all of these one-off cases, they wouldn't get it wrong. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, because there's going to be one that we talk about here in a few weeks that a guy supposedly did this to himself, again on the same property that Derontae was found on, and he rolled himself up in a carpet. Nobody shoots themselves in the head and then rolls himself up in a carpet,
And also, what the FBI got on Derontae's case is what the police gave them, which is not the actual ending of that.
Right. Well, and see, that's the thing. We've got so much more as armchair sleuths online than what anybody has available. And so this is what I find so disturbing. You cannot say that this case was investigated by the FBI, because if it was investigated by the FBI, actually investigated, I got another comment over here. I'm trying to get field comments on 4 different places because I go live 4 different places. I guarantee you, I mean, there's maybe a 10% chance. I'll say 90%. I'm 90% positive. No FBI boots ever touched Madison County soil. Just the way it goes. They looked over what the police gave them, and then they dismissed it. And this is what we need to understand. We have to get past the gatekeepers, and we have to get it into the right division to get the help. And this is where, even if that doesn't work, there's a couple other options we can do. And then if all of that fails, we just have to kick up a media dust storm, so we're not out of options. And I think that's what I wanted to talk about today the most. And I know this is a little bit different type of True Crime Tuesdays. We really usually deep dive into some kind of case. But I really wanted to encourage you that the fight's not over. Okay. We're not done. My father was kind of a rough and tumble street thug before he got his life together and became a minister and changed everything. But he always said, in a street fight, it doesn't matter how many times you get hit and knocked down. It's how many times you get back up. So we've gotten hit. We've gotten hit, but we got to stand back up. And the fight's not over until we don't get up again. And I'm not done. And if I'm not done, you're not done. We're not done. And I think that's what I want to encourage everybody that's going through this, because you feel alone. You feel like, how could this happen to me? And you get to, when we're all on here together, you feel a sense of community, you feel a sense of support. But I know in the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, when you're by yourself, you wake up crying and you're thinking, where's everybody now when I need them? Well, just know, Sonova and her team, we're there. We're there. We haven't forgotten you. We think about you all the time. I've got all of the pictures. I haven't got it finished yet, so I haven't taken a picture of my board yet to put on there, but they're not forgotten. They're up there. Derontae's up there. I picked the one with the orange hoodie, Kimberly. I picked the picture with the orange hoodie, and he's got the blue jersey on, and he's got the orange hoodie and the ball cap, because he's got a smile that
I like that one.
It just goes from ear to ear, and I'm like, that's the one that moved me the most. So that's the one I typed off of Facebook and printed out on and put on my board. You know, that is what we need to understand. That was a hit. That was a disaster. But we're not done. I'm not done fighting for any of those people on the board. And so that's what we got. We got today's more about encouragement. Okay, so let's see. Joanne says, how long has this been going on in Madison County?
Uh-oh.
I have found cases back to 1880. There was one in 1930, that they found a partial body in a pig pen with a bullet in the head and a gun nearby. So they said that they must have done that to themselves. And they dismissed it. I'm thinking, I've never heard of anybody doing that in a pig pen. You know, usually when a body is in a pig pen, it is to get rid of evidence. It's not because they put themselves there. But that just kind of shows you the concept of how they solve cases over there. Marion Tate says, you give me goosebumps. We will get justice for Fredericktown, Missouri. Absolutely. And this is something that I want you guys to understand, those of you that aren't actually in the cesspool digging with us. We're talking about a very rural county, 500 square miles, just less than 500 square miles, and less than 15,000 people in the whole county. So this isn't a big, massive load of people. And yet the crime rate in that county is one of the highest in any county in the U.S. That's including counties that, Chicago and LA and all that. And yet there's only 15,000 people there. There's less than 15,000 people there. And so I'm thinking, you've got this cesspool of drugs going through there, and corruption going through there, and maybe child trafficking going through there, all kinds of cesspools of junk. And yet you've got good-hearted people trying to move out to a quiet country neighborhood to raise their kids in peace. And that is the biggest facade of this county is, oh, it's a beautiful, quiet, rural neighborhood. No, it ain't. My family was going to travel out there. They were going past there to go to something else. And I was like, don't go through Madison County. They're like, why? I was like, if you end up dead in Madison County, you're just going to get rolled over in the ditch and no one's going to care. I said, they're like, oh, you're just a true crime writer. You're paranoid. I said, absolutely not. Would you like to see my murder wall? Absolutely not. And it's sad to say that, but that is literally the statistics show that county is in the top of the most dangerous counties to live in. And it's insane. Let's see. Kimberly says, I appreciate you doing this. Absolutely, babe. Absolutely. I swear, Kimberly, if I could bring that precious baby boy back and give him to you, I would. I swear, if I had a magic wand and I could just bring him back, I swear I would. From one moment to another, I would. Tammy, go ahead.
I think your viewers would be surprised to know how much we do discuss these cases and how much time we do put in, and we're constantly, looking stuff up and,
Yeah. You guys, honestly, if you want to know the truth, I talk to Tammy and Cricket
Every day.
every day for hours. And it's always about cases. It's always about what we're going to do next. It's always about strategies, always about these things, because we're trying our best to find a way we're just trying to find. See, I have a different outlook on cases because I have written about 300. I don't really toot my own horn too much, but I've written about cases all around the U.S. I brought some closure to some cases, a series of cases in Texas, and the victim's mother was the victim's family member was so happy. She told her friend, and her friend told the governor. So the governor of Texas flew a flag over Washington, D.C. in honor of my cold case work. It's right here. Okay. So I've had a lot of experience in that kind of thing. Cricket, she's been a victim's advocate, and she's actually more into the search and rescue. So she's the boots on the ground, traipsing through the woods type, And Tammy's just an incredible research assistant. And so when it comes down to it, we have 3 different kind of outlooks that we are trying to bring to this. And then, my first book here, Unorganized Crime. If you look right there real close to in the front there, that is an endorsement by a retired FBI agent, So we've all got these strategies that we're all trying to bring in and try to bring together and get some help. I wrote out the mission statement for my company, Sonova Inc. Publishing, and I have goals and things planned out. But my whole purpose, one of the main things I put in there was to bring compassion and intelligence back to the genre of true crime, because it's gotten off to where it's just a circus about gore and how gory can you get, and how many videos can you get, and how much junk can you throw out there. And you've got a bunch of people that want to just throw garbage out there because they're more interested in making more videos. I could make more money if I made more videos, just to be honest. If I focused on being a YouTuber, I could make a whole lot more money than if I focused on what I'm doing. I make YouTube videos and they are monetized, so it does help pay for some of the bills. But I don't focus on that. I'm trying to bring compassion and bring intelligence and, professionalism back to the genre, and so that's the reason why, we do things differently. We're taking our time. We're not just throwing out every bit of information we get. We're not rehashing the news. See, I studied a lot of psychology and self-help. I actually went into life coaching. I'm a certified life coach for victims' family members to help get them through the grieving process and reclaim some of their life. So we have a whole different agenda behind us. We want to help and get things out there that are quality content to help, not just entertain people with other people's sad stories. So
we're never about just putting a case out there.
No, never.
We never give up on these cases. I mean, I've been boots to the ground. I've had some media legal death investigation extra credit. But we all have different skills and we all bring them together.
Yeah.
But we never give up. And
No, I've still, and this is something this is personal, so I'll apologize. I'm taking my watch off. All of these mean something. They're all for a reason. This one here is for this one right here. I got the beaded one. That is the Hero Company, which is an affiliate of mine too. I'm an affiliate of theirs. That goes to help victims that are suffering, veterans that are suffering with PTSD, helps them get service dogs. Each one of these means something. Well, there's a green one right there. That's under my watch. That one is green ribbons for Angie because her mom just died. And I promised her mom. Angie's been gone for 20 years. Okay. I'm going to keep telling the story. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep doing everything I can. I'm not going to forget Angie. That's not coming off my arm until somebody finds her. And so that's what's different between us and some of the others that just put out stuff. Now let's see. Arctic Fox says, not to mention Timmy D's. Timmy D's is another one. I did a whole video on Timmy D's. Timmy D's is he called 911 saying, I need help. My friend is chasing me. I'm scared for my life. And the police show up on the scene and they see somebody that got warrants and they get distracted and they arrest that guy. They don't even look for Timmy D's. They find him 4 months later, 200 yards away in the field. His remains are found. So, I mean, you can go back through Arctic Fox's channel and my channel too, and you can see all of these just plotted out. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Barbara says, I will never lash out, but I'm not going away. And see, that's the thing. the first response is to lash out, because you're in pain, but I also know that we are battling something that they are looking for anything they can to use against you, then they can write you off. Okay, so we got to really watch our P's and Q's. I've been hearing it's called the good old boy system. There ain't nothing good about it, girl. Arthur Fox says it's the only place I've ever encountered where the sheriff is also the assistant coroner. See, now that upsets me because that is a conflict of interest. The sheriff is the assistant coroner. Well, the only person that can fire them, yeah, they're not going to fire themselves. So there's nobody there to fire her. So yeah, we've talked about that in the very first one. The police in Fredericktown need to do their job or find another one. Unfortunately, I have been told that there were occasionally good cops that come through there and they are run off. Kelly Kirkpatrick, my name's Kelly. I'm Jacob Kirkpatrick's mom. We were going to talk about Jacob tonight, and we was going to talk about how his case ties in with Ashlyn's case. But we're running out of time and I don't want to rush it. So Kelly, keep an eye out and we will talk about Jacob's case next week. If you want to chat with me through Messenger or something in the meantime, feel free to. Barbara says, I think the FBI is just listening to the highway patrol. Same coroner, same highway patrol, same sheriff. Oh, yeah, that's it. Venus says, I'd like more information on this case. Derontae Martin, I'll send you some links. There's quite a bit of information about Derontae Martin out there.
I tried to post the link, but I don't know if it came through or not.
Okay, let's see. RJ Fox says, sadly, there's not very much information about Nick Lowry.
No, all we know about him was that it was, and he rolled himself up in a rug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't say the S word on YouTube. On YouTube, I can talk about homicide. I can talk. I'm working with an ex special cop. He was he was out of Kansas City, and he was on special task force to take down the mafia out of Kansas City. And we are working on a series of podcasts and videos for YouTube about serial killers. And we've been talking about dismemberments. We've been talking about all this horrible, grotesque stuff. And YouTube don't care, but you can't say the S word. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. There's not much information about I read that one. No, and the thing is you can't get shot in the head and then roll yourself up in the carpet. And who rolls people up in carpets anyways? That's in the movies. Kimberly says, I'm definitely not done. Absolutely heartbreaking. No, and Kimberly, I just want you to know that everybody on this video is with you.
Yes.
And if anybody had the ability to just finish it for you, we would. So just want to let you know we're there. We're standing with you. And see, someone Get a Look See is on YouTube and says yes, and it's a fact the FBI will not get involved unless the sheriff asks for their assistance. Absolutely. And see, the thing is that the only work around that rule is the corruption department. Okay, but to get the corruption department involved, the corruption division, you have to be very meticulous and you have to have a strategy. And I have one. It's just going to take some time, going to take some work. I know how to do it and I'm working on it, but it takes some time. Okay. Barbara says, thank you for what you're saying and telling us families today, because we get really discouraged. I know you do. And I know you do. And you have suffered so much trauma. And what's so bad about it, the trauma itself is devastating. But until you get that case closed, okay, until you get that answer that you need, until you find the missing loved one or you get justice for your family member, you can't cycle through the grief process. So the trauma just continues over and over and over. And that's what, we're all fighting for. We're all fighting to try to help get to that point to where you can work through the trauma, because you're never going to have closure. I hate that word, closure. there's no closure.
No, you get answers.
You can't cycle through the grief process either until
Right.
that trauma isn't constantly just continuing. The trauma has to end, then you can start working about releasing the trauma and getting pieces of your life back. And so that's the reason why it's so devastating. It just continues on and on. Arctic Fox says, I've lost countless of hours over these cases, countless hours of sleep over these Missouri cases, and I won't stop till families get justice. Absolutely. Arctic Fox, maybe we can do a collaboration on something, because I appreciate what you do. Let's see. Hello, Sonova. Hello.
This is what the law enforcement needs to do. You mentioned it earlier. They won't get together and cooperate with each other. And
yeah, thank you for reminding me that. That is, was talking to Tammy earlier today in one of the many conversations that we've had. And I was saying that I believe is the most, the biggest problem we have in our law enforcement of all sorts. The biggest problem we have as law enforcement in the United States, there's no legislation that requires different divisions and different departments to work together. Nothing. They all have to agree to work together. So you have to set away egos, and you have to set away all these things. And you get so many little podunk departments that they push out the FBI. They won't allow the John Benet Ramsey case. I have some information on that. I have some videos. I have it in my archives that I haven't uploaded again yet. But all of that could have been solved earlier because the FBI was pounding down the doors and they wouldn't let them in because they're like, no, this is our case. It ain't yours. Well, you get your ego out of there and focus on the case and forget who solves it. You know, I don't care if I'm the one that finds Angie. You know, I don't care. I don't have to find her.
We just
take this green ribbon off. Somebody needs to find her. You know, and that's where we need to. I wish we could pass some legislation that requires all divisions of law enforcement to work together, whether they like it or not. Because I can give you an example. I had an ex-gangster as a co-host on my first true crime podcast, and his name was Hootie Russo. Okay, he had 800 different agents, law enforcement agents, after him from all different types of law enforcement. They put a task force together, 800 people, to take down him and his crew out of the mafia. And I'm sitting here going, if we had 100 to come in, they could just clean out Madison County, you know, but we can't get 2 people to work together. You know, and so that's where I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, the competition has to stop.
Yeah. Barbara Hall says, it's a beautiful little town. I will say that it's just that people don't know what happens at night when the lights go down. And see, that's what makes me so sad. People look at it and they think, oh, it's just a nice country little town, you know. And there's a lot of people in there that are good-hearted people. But they're sitting there traumatized. They're sitting there traumatized because they're afraid to say anything, you know. And that's where, you know, what we've got to do. We've got to keep going and encourage people to work together. Okay, I've got more comments. Cricket, do you have anything to say? Okay. Hello, Get a Look-See. Hello, I knew you. Barbara Hall. Marion Tate. If I haven't said your name, I'm sorry. I've got so many coming in. Cricket, say something.
I also know now you have to have a lot of information which we're collecting while doing these cases. We had brought, this wasn't with Sonova, but this was a fraudulent person, and we sent at least 100 pages to the attorney generals, and they said, oh, this is more than enough to investigate, and they did nothing. So that's, you know, we have to keep.
Well, and 2, if you can lay out the puzzle for them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because then nobody wants to work. We got to do the work for them.
Well, And we already have. So why waste time? Here,
Yeah.
What about the attorney general?
that's another option. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's another option.
another
But you also have to say, I'm not so sure. Some of that, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, that
I
wouldn't
hate to
work
say
in
anything,
this
but I'm
case.
not so sure that our attorney general, there isn't a picture of him with Sheriff McCutcheon's on Facebook.
Oh,
Your hand. Now, I don't know,
Yeah.
that may have just been a campaign photo,
could
but
have been. Yeah, you just have, I mean, around this, you have to be careful because you don't know who to trust. And that's the hard part, but
yeah.
it's not going to stop us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Arctic Fox says John Bonet crime scene was completely mishandled. Absolutely. Completely.
Oh, yeah.
And I have some behind the scenes information on that. The main suspect has been in the case file from the beginning, but they didn't want to hear Lou Schmidt's information. So they dismissed it. And Lou Schmidt, the main suspect is in Lou Schmidt's report from the very beginning. Let's see. Well, if there's corruption, there's not going to be anyone to ask to. Well, if there's corruption, they're not going to ask somebody to assist them. No, they're not.
No.
Get a look. See says I went many times with the highway patrol in the county of Madison, and not once did they have a warrant. Kimberly says nope. She was endorsed by the governor. Oh, that's good information.
Okay, good.
The Attorney General of Missouri referred the families back to the local jurisdiction. Absolutely. See, this is where I wanted to kind of educate you guys on how the process works. Not one of these cases is going to get anybody's attention. We have to establish a whole case file, a whole collection of corruption, and send that in. Okay, that's, because he says the Attorney General refer the families back to their local jurisdiction. They're going to. They're not interested in one-off cases. And so, yeah, we have to establish a pattern of behavior, a problem, that shows how massive the corruption is. And that is what's going to get the attention. Joanne says every department involved wants to take credit for solving, if in fact they ever solve anything. That's true. Says there's barely any Black people in Fredericktown, Missouri, not even 1%. I don't understand that. I was talking to Tammy today. I was raised that skin color is irrelevant. You literally, with the little children's church song where red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. And that's the way we're supposed to be. And, when it comes down to it, all of that, we're all so alike and we're all so different. We're all unique, but we're all the same. That's what makes the world such a wonderful place. And so, I was telling, I think it was Tammy I was talking to. Was it Tammy? Was I talking to you about my heritage? Was it you I was talking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm actually partially Apache Indian. You can tell by these huge cheekbones. I have just enough Apache Indian in me, and Apache Native American is the official, I have just enough Apache in me that I tan up, and my skin color changes when I tan seriously like I used to. I would change 4 to 5 shades in my foundation every summer. So I'm like, what? You're going to discriminate against me because I'm darker skinned in the summer when I have a nice tan and I look like a blue-eyed Indian? Or are you going to discriminate me when I get so pale in the summer, in the wintertime, that my hair color looks too dark for my skin? So to me, all of that is just, I don't understand. It doesn't compute to me. But there are people out there in Fredericktown and otherwise that still hold on to those asinine concepts, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I really don't. Let's see. I'm getting so many comments. Barbara says, yes, I have a letter to prove it. I'm not sure what she's meaning there. Let's see. We bleed red, but I don't think Fredericktown, Missouri thinks that way. I'd say there's people in that town that don't think that way. But I think I still have a hope that there's good-hearted people in there that just can't do nothing about it. Okay, Barbara says the picture with the Attorney General is old. He's been voted in as a senator. They have a new Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. Okay, we'll look into it. Arctic Fox says JW is a known white supremacist. I believe that Derontae's death was racially motivated. I don't know if it was racially motivated or if it was just the fact that Derontae was a good kid and Derontae was there. And Derontae had something that those people did not have. He had a life. He had a football scholarship. He had a job. He had a reason to be here and a reason to live. And I think they looked at him and they hated him because he had something they didn't have. And they took his life for it because he didn't want to get involved in whatever BS they were doing that night. And I really think that when it come down to it, he was a good guy and he didn't want to get involved and he wanted to leave. They wouldn't let him leave and they killed him for it. That's what I believe. Okay. Yes, I'm talking about the people involved in the case for Derontae. Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, the hate crime division is looking for an organization behind the case. And I don't think the person responsible for this has a massive organization behind them. I think they were selfish individuals that hated Derontae for various reasons, including the fact that he was a good guy. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that he didn't want to be there. They didn't like that he didn't want to be involved in whatever they were doing. And they hated him for it. And they killed him for it. And that's where I think it is. And when it comes down to it, every time someone is killed, it's a hate crime. But that doesn't necessarily get the FBI's attention. And so to me, I feel like when it didn't work that way, and I wasn't surprised, but I didn't feel like it was my place to say, don't try, So I just kept my mouth shut and I kept working because I feel like if it would have worked and they would have got in, then great. I don't care who gets in and solves it as long as somebody does, So I didn't feel like I wasn't surprised by the news. I didn't feel like it was going to work. But like I said, I didn't feel like it was my place. Grieving families, they're desperate for help in any way possible. And unfortunately, that also makes them easy targets for people, con men and things like that. So you want to be careful about that. But I wasn't surprised by the ruling. And I'm still working. That's the whole point of this video is I wasn't surprised. We're still working and we got a plan. Okay. All right. So, all right. I have 3 books here. I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to give away tonight. And I appreciate all of you guys getting on. I really do. It makes the video so much better when you have comments from the audience. It really makes it good. So, Shattered is a case files book. It's got 23 cases that I wrote about on my blog back in 2018. It's got all kinds of some famous cases, some rural cases that you may have never heard of. Grim Justice is actually a free ebook that I give away, the free ebook for anyone who signs up for my mailing list, but this is actually a hard copy. And then there is Snatched. Snatched is a case files book from 2017. I was writing about all kinds of art crimes and museum thefts. So I'm trying to decide which book to give away. All right. I'm going to let these families shouldn't have to spend $5,000 or whack on second autopsies. A lot of these families. Well, see, that's the thing. You should never have to pay for an autopsy. It should already be done, and it should be done properly. Nobody should ever have to go and foot the bill to have another one done. It should be done right the first time, you know. So no, I'm right there with you. Okay, I think tonight I'm going to give away the Shattered book because I've got a few of those. Now I am going to update this, and I'm going to be putting out more. I'm going to put some more cases in this and update it because there's been some updates to a few of these cases, but I've only got I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only got 5 of these left. And so after these are gone, the whole book's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to give away this one, I think, so I can get them off my shelf. Arctic Fox says, I greatly appreciate what you're doing, Sonova. I appreciate what you're doing too. We all need to band together and help any way that we can. I tell people, I can't guarantee anything. I don't have a badge and a gun. All I have is the ability to write and the ability to market. I know how to market things online. At one time, before I stepped away and started studying other things and come back, I had a potential viewership of 500,000 people. I know how to push things online and build an audience. I have a whole book to teach authors how to build an audience. So that's all I have. I have a very empathetic heart. I know how to research. I know how to write. And I know how to market. And so I can just use those things. That is the only tools I have. But at least that strangers can care, and at least that somebody's standing with you in the trenches when the whole world's coming down on your head. Okay? All right. All right. So let's go ahead and give away this book. Okay. Cricket, I want you to pick a number between 1 and 35.
25.
25. Okay. Cricket, say something while I find the 25 who signed on as the 25th.
Something I was thinking about too, that if we can prove with getting these cases together that the coroner messed them up, then all her cases or his have to be reinvestigated and redone.
Well, we have the coroner's name, and he did Jacob Kirkpatrick's. He's done Derontae's. He's done Michaela Jones. He's done several, and I brought up in the first video I did about Derontae. If you understand what an autopsy is just a report of the state of a body. Okay. And one thing that I know that you should be able to get that autopsy thrown out is if they don't mention the surgical scars on his arm, on his dominant arm in that autopsy, because it's supposed to mention everything. However that state of that body is, inside and out, they are supposed to document everything. So that's one thing one little kind of loophole that you can kind of look in. If they didn't document his surgical scars, then should be able to throw that out. Okay. All right. So we are looking for a number. Tammy, do you have anything else to say while I'm looking? I got distracted by more comments. I'm sorry.
I'm just glad for the encouragement for the mothers and the family. I think they needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think something will be done. It might just take some time, but
yeah, it is. Okay. All right. 25th person to sign on was Marion Tate. Marion Tate, send me a message through Messenger with your address, and I will sign this to you and send it to you. Marion Tate. Send me your address, and I will mail you out a book. every Tuesday I'm going to be giving out a different book. So I appreciate you guys signing on, and I will. Arctic Fox says, I've seen Timmy D's remains and nobody will ever convince me it wasn't foul play. Arctic Fox, let's do a video on that if you want to, because I've seen it too. And there's some very suspicious things with that skull that absolutely do not fit together. So Arctic, if you want to reach out to me, we can maybe do a video on that, because I am right there with you. I am 100% right there with you. I agree. If you look at that, there's just so many things. We won't get into it because the show's supposed to be less than an hour and it's already we're over an hour. Okay, so Mary and Tate, you guys got this. Guys, I appreciate it. You guys want to say anything before we sign off?
Just to remind you, everyone, that we are with you. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how we roll.
Absolutely. I'm a Texas rebel. I'm right there on the Alamo wall. I'm going to fight until I can't no more. That's just all there is to it. And that's just the way I work, and my team's the same way. We got some more comments. Have a great evening. Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to drop off. I will be out of here. I'm going to go ahead and run the end credits of the show. Feel free to message me if you have information on a case that you want me to cover. I do have a case submission form on my website that kind of helps keep track of things. And we'll see you next Tuesday night for another True Crime Tuesday. Bye, guys. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Sonova's True Crime Stories on YouTube. Today I'm going to be discussing the strange crime scene of Derontae Martin. Now Derontae Martin, he is out of Fredericktown, Missouri is where his case came from. He was the first Fredericktown, Madison County case that came to me. They classed it as this. Of course, YouTube won't allow us to say this word because they are of the mindset that if you say this word, you're encouraging this word, which makes absolutely no sense. You're actually encouraging mental health issues when you ignore this word. But so I can't even put it on my little cartoon sign without misspelling it. But this is what Derontae Martin's case was classified as. Now, if I mess up and say this word and it doesn't get edited out, then they ban the video, and Derontae still doesn't get the justice and things that he needs. So I have to be reduced to a cartoon character holding a sign. But that's what we will do if we have to get his story out. Now, today I am going to share with you one photograph. I have all of the gruesome crime scene photos, but I will not share them out of respect for the family. I will share one photo that I have manipulated. I have made one adjustment to this photo. I have erased the body out of the photograph so you can see the room. Now, I wish I had that tool in real life to where I could take Derontae out of this situation, out of that room, to where he would not have been killed there. I wish I had that tool in real life. I would use it on every one of these cases, but unfortunately, this is where we're at. So I'm going to share this one photograph with you. Now, just to give you a reminder, I will link the video that I made that kind of goes into the case a little bit more with my team. I went over this case with them on True Crime Tuesday. So it's got a more in-depth, detailed outline of what happened. So this is kind of an accompaniment video. So I will make sure in the video description that I include that video link so you can get all the details about this case that you need. Okay, so just as a refresher, we are talking about a 19-year-old boy named Derontae Martin. He actually did not live in the town of Fredericktown. He was brought to Fredericktown for a birthday party by a friend that he'd known before, but had kind of grown away from. They had moved away, and Derontae had gotten his life together, and he had gotten a football scholarship. He was going to play football in college, and everything was starting to turn up for him. Now, he was brought to Fredericktown by this friend. They say that he was uncomfortable at the party. He was the only Black man there, and I don't know if that was what was making him uncomfortable or if he was uncomfortable with what they were doing. He did end up dead in a man's house who was convicted of making racial slurs on Facebook. So he did make those things, and Derontae was also the second one of these so-called ones of these at this man's house, and yet everyone's wanting to class this as the S word. But we can't. If you want to take the police's narrative, the police say, okay, he went there, he did some drugs, and he ended up shooting himself. Well, the problem with that is he wasn't a known drug user. He hadn't been doing these things. This wasn't his pattern of behavior. So how did that little bit of drugs get in his system in the first place is a whole other question we're going to talk about. But I'm going to mainly talk about what is wrong with the crime scene. Because if you're going to believe what the police have said, if you're going to believe that this boy went up there and shot himself in this little bitty room, you're going to have certain things in the crime scene that add up. And when you get one thing that's kind of questionable, you can kind of, okay, maybe I'm not understanding exactly what happened there. But when you've got a list, I've got a list here. I have a list here of the things that I found wrong. Now, someone asked me if I'm a criminologist. Not officially. I have studied thousands and thousands of hours of this stuff. And so I probably have more hours of study than a lot of people going to college for this, because I study massively. But I am not officially a criminologist. So I have to put that out there because I had someone question me on that. So no, this is me and my opinion. I've written about 300 cold cases. After a while, you would have to be a dancing monkey not to be able to see some patterns after writing about 300 cases. So that's where my is from. If you want an official criminologist, you'll have to look somewhere else. Okay, so this is just me and my study and what I've observed over time. So this is just my experience speaking to you. So I'm going to show you a photo. And in this photo, I have manipulated the photo and took Derontae out of it. Okay. And again, if I had that tool in real life to where I could just wave that little magic wand over the photo and this never happened, I promise you, to the mother and the grandmother that's going to be watching this, I promise you, I swear, I would have used that. I would have got him out, but I wasn't there. So here we go. I'm going to switch gears real quick before I cry off all my makeup. Okay, so I'm trying to get my screen to share, and I'm going to show you this photo. Now, I'm not going to show the gruesome stuff because I out of respect for the family, and also I'm sure YouTube would ban that. They like to ban everything. So I'm going to move this to see. Okay, I think you can see this now. Okay, this is the room that Derontae was found in. Okay, he was laying right through here. Okay, you can see kind of the smudged spot. That's where Derontae was laying. But I want you to see this room. Now, this room is very small. It's very tight quarters. It's very dark. Okay, now the rest of the crime scene photos, they have brightened so you can see the details. I purposely left this like this so you can see what we're dealing with. This is a very small room. Now, Derontae, if you notice the floor, I want you to look down here on the floor. The floor, there's no real floor. The only floor there is this piece of plywood, and you can see it ends right here. Hopefully you can see my cursor. Right there where that cardboard box is kind of lined up with the edge, okay? There's no flooring in that blurred spot. There's no flooring whatsoever, okay? So it's just floor joists, and then there's a little bit of insulation here and there, but it's floor joists, and then that is the sheetrock that makes the ceiling for the floor below, okay? So Derontae is his feet are right here on the edge of this plywood, okay? So I found that interesting. He's facing this way towards us. His feet are right on the edge of the plywood. That means before he fell, he was standing right there on the edge of the plywood. Okay. So he was standing here facing his left-hand side, which is what they said he would have had to use, would have been right up against all of these pipings. You see these black things right here on the screen? Those are pipe. Okay, those are different. All of this is your heating and air, all that. Okay, so it would have been right up against this black sheeting. Okay, a plastic. Okay, and there's only one gap in between them right through here. And you look through the photos, there's no blood spatter on any of these pipings. There's no blood spatter on the wall behind the pipings. There's no blood spatter on the back wall. You see right here where my cursor is. There's no blood spatter that we could see in the photos. Now, like I'm saying, in the photos, I'm not a crime scene tech that was there so I could see. Okay, along this wall that is nothing but studs and sheetrock. I mean, not sheetrock, studs and insulation. There's no blood spatter there. Okay. So if Derontae Martin was standing up, facing this way towards the door, then there should have been blood on this wall. There should have been blood spatter all over this black tape here, or in that wall. There should have been blood spatter here on this ledge. Okay. And you can see that that ledge is covered in dust. There's nothing has disturbed that dust. Okay. Also, if he was standing up right there, facing this way, using his left hand, the gun should have landed right there, right here in this area. Okay. So that's not where the gun is. The gun landed supposedly all the way back here. You can see where my cursor is. Okay. Now, I want you to understand there's a difference when you shoot a gun in reality versus when you shoot a gun on the movies. Okay. When you shoot a gun, for the movies or for television, they always have to over dramatize things. Okay. Because once you get past the real loud sound of the bullet, there is no drama left. If you're shooting yourself, you will fall down in a heap right where you're at. That doesn't look good on camera, just to be honest. So in the movies, they always make you get shot and you always fall back like this. Okay. So you're falling back. You're falling way back, and we got to make the drama out of this. Okay. So you're falling back. All right. Now, this is where I want you guys to understand. This boy was laid out right here and his arms were above his head, fell all the way back like this. I guess it would be his left foot, his right foot was right here. Okay. His right foot was right here, right on the edge of this board where it should be. And there was something black that his knee was over. So that tells me he was standing right here. Okay. So when he fell back, his foot's here. His knee is up over some black something or other. Okay. All right. That is actually legitimate. Okay. But if he was standing right here, why is his foot under this box? You can't tell me he was standing there straddling that box. No, he was standing there and something happened when he went to fall, or if he was laying there kicking, trying to kick something away from him or somebody off of him, then his foot ended up under the box. But to me, it does not make any sense why that boy's foot would be underneath this box. Because if he was standing and he fell, which it doesn't make any sense that you fall back like this with your hands above your head. Okay. But let's just say, let's suspend reality and say that we believe that he fell back like this. Why would his foot be under the box? The only way his foot would be under that box is if someone put the box there afterwards, or if he was kicking around because maybe he was fighting somebody and his foot got under the box. If he just shot and fell back, there would be no reason for his foot to be under that box. So that is one of those things that I question. Okay. Besides the fact that he's fallen back in a very dramatic pose, okay? The only place that there is blood in this room is in between the two floor joists. Okay, so you've got your floor joist here. I'm going to stop sharing this for just a second so I can. Okay, so in between the two floor joists, okay, his shoulders are on one of the floor joists and his head's back onto the sheetrock in between the two floor joists. Okay, so there's pooling of blood between there on the sheetrock, and there's a little bit of splatter up on that floor joist a ways. Okay, there's no splatter on that back wall. There's no splatter on his left-hand side. So supposedly, if this was done by himself, for one, there's not enough room to get your elbow unless he stuck his elbow in between the piping, okay? Which I guess you could have done, but there's no deal. Now, if you take the results of the second autopsy, because the first autopsy was highly questioned and suspect, so the family paid for the second autopsy, okay? So if you take the second autopsy, they go into detail and they say, well, here's a problem with him doing this himself. They say he died by violence. Because this is why. When you shoot a gun and it's a contact, okay? When you've got the barrel of the gun right against the skin, okay? Certain things are going to happen. For one, it's going to leave ash and soot, and it's going to burn the outer ring of the wound, okay? So when the bullet goes through, it's going to burn that ring, and there's going to be lots of soot. That wasn't there. Also, you're going to have the kickback of the gun. Okay, so you're going to have the gun. It's going to be right here. It's going to shoot. It's going to come back, and it's going to hit again. So you're also going to have deep bruising. Okay, so there was no bruising. There was no punching. There's no. Sometimes you can see the indent of where it came back and it hit. There was no wounds outside of the bullet hole. So the autopsy report, the second autopsy report, says that gun, to have that level of extra, there was none of it. So that, I mean, to do that, you would have to at least have 2 foot between the gun and between the head. Okay, so 2 foot. Now you go back and you look at that room. I'm going to share it again. You guys are going to get tired of seeing this room by the time I'm done. And I'm hoping so you can see what I'm talking about. So if he was standing here, he'd had to stuck his elbow here or here in between there to get his arm up. Okay. I want to see how many of you can hold something and point it back. I mean, it's hard to turn my hand that far. Okay. But you're going to hold your gun and you're going to try to point it back to your head, but you got to keep your arm stretched to where the tip of the gun is still 2 foot from the head. I'm not saying it's impossible. Of course, a guy's got longer arms than me. He's a football player. He's bigger. He's tougher. He's stronger. He might be able to twist like that. Okay, but can you do it when you're standing right up against this and you've got the piping here? I contend you cannot do it that way. Okay, so if he was standing here, okay, if he was standing here, where would he have put his elbow to get his hand 2 foot from his head? Okay, so we're just trying to look at this with common sense, with logic. Okay, and then when you do that, when you shoot a gun, not only does it hit, okay, it's going to come back and it's going to hit, okay, but all of the blood spatter goes this way. Okay, so yeah, you're going to get blood here and there, but the blood spatter is going to go back over the direction of the gun and the hand. Okay, so if he had done that, there should have been blood splatter here. There isn't any. Also, the gun should have landed either on this ledge or under that box or right through there. Okay, I contend that box should not be there unless it was there and he was laying down, kicking, trying to get someone off of him. Okay, because that's where the gun should be. That's not where his foot should be. Okay, so he's laid back like this. Okay, now he's laid back like this, and somehow the gun. This is another one. I'm going to. Somehow he's a contortionist, I guess, and he somehow got his elbow in amongst these pipings somewhere so he could get the gun 2 foot from his head. Now, I'm being sarcastic here, but I'm trying to be respectful too. If we're to believe, we're trying to believe the narrative that's been force fed to us. Okay, this is what I'm doing. I say things out of sarcasm because there, in my opinion, there's no possible way this kid could have done this to himself in the manner that they said in that room. Okay, so please forgive me if I sound a little snarky, but to me, I haven't read anything or talked to the family and heard anything about him being a contortionist. He's a big burly football player, but he's not a contortionist. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this for just a second and get back here. Okay, let me get back to my list. See, this is the reason why I wanted to go over this. There's so many things. Okay. I'm looking over my list. Okay, because I'm like, where I got out of order, so now I'm sitting here going, okay. So the next thing I want to bring up is we're going to address the whole I'm going to fly backwards like they do in the movies. Now, this is the thing. If the arm was jacked up like this, okay, the arm's jacked up like this, and it's 2 foot from the head, and you lose consciousness. So when you lose consciousness, you immediately lose your grip. You don't just keep gripping, you lose. Okay, so you're going to drop the gun. Okay, the gun is still going to have a bit of momentum from the shot, but it doesn't fly towards the shot. Okay, the gun doesn't fly with the bullet. Just basic physics tells you the bullet goes this way, the gun goes opposite. Okay, so to me, the fact that the gun was going in relatively the same direction as the bullet is ridiculous. But then you come around and you look at that picture, the gun should have ended up on that little ledge underneath those black piping, right? Okay, or it should have fell down by his foot. Instead, here's the thing. He was falling backwards in this dramatic way, but he must have been falling in slow motion because the gun passed him. The gun passed him, and it ended up under this hand. Okay, so he's laying with his arms above his head, which is strange. I have seen it before, but it's a different circumstance and different physics. If you understand how physics and gravity and all those things work, you know. Okay, so he's landing back with his hands up like this, and the gun happens to land under his hand here. If he had dropped the gun while he was falling, it would have landed anywhere between point A by his foot to his hand, okay? It should have landed somewhere along that path. Instead, it lands under his hand. It lands before his hand. So somehow the gun outraces him to the floor. So we're going to leave that as that, and we'll let you come to your own conclusion. I'm an 80s kid. I don't like propaganda BS. I always took all of the information. I was trained, as an 80s kid. You took the information and then you used the brain that God gave you to come up with your conclusion. And you didn't have all of the propaganda BS to where you got the news and everyone's opinion on what it means. So I'm giving you what I have. I'm expecting you to use your brain to figure out what your conclusion will be. And by the end of this video, I will leave it open-ended because I'm going to let you decide if you still think this boy did this, or if you think that maybe this boy was on the ground, on his knees or on the ground, and fighting for his life from someone. Okay, so I think the foot under the box kind of points in another direction. Okay, but this is up to you. I'm not here to influence you. I'm here to question the narrative. The narrative that was given to us is that he went up there, and if you're uncomfortable somewhere, do you go deeper into someone's house if you're uncomfortable in the house? Do you go upstairs and through all these different unfinished rooms and into this closet and into this unfinished room? Where if you see the pictures, there's a whole bunch of crap just stuck up there. It's like their storage, in their attic storage. Okay. So you're going to walk past all that and get in this little crawl space area and then do this? If you're uncomfortable in a situation, you usually leave the premises. You don't usually go in deeper into the house. So this is, just another question. Okay. So this is something else that I noticed when I was going through these photographs. Now, I'm going to go back and look at this photograph real quick to refresh my memory, but I'm not going to share it. So I'm going to go here and look. Yeah. Right. Okay. So this is something that I wanted to bring up when you're looking through this. For one, there's no picture of the gun in the crime scene, and I feel like that is suspect. You know, if the gun was under his hand, the gun isn't a tiny gun, so we should be able to see the nose of it or the butt of it or something sticking out, and we don't in any of these crime scenes. When they remove the body, there's no picture of where the gun was placed. I find that strange. I did ask an ex-law officer if he found it strange. He said not necessarily. He said if the crime scene, if the gun's there and he's afraid that somebody's going to take it and cause a problem, he said the standard procedure would be to check on the body, make sure the person's already expired, and then the next step would be to secure the weapon so nobody else in the house can get it and use it. So I still find it suspicious that we can't see it poking out from under his hand, but the fact they didn't go back and take a picture, I had a officer tell me that is probably not excellent procedure, but it is not necessarily uncommon either. And so this is what this is the photo I was wanting to look at. It's a very graphic, gruesome photo of this poor boy laying sprawled out like this. But you look at the floor joists and you will see that there is a little bit of splatter going up the edge of the floor joist, but there is none on the wall behind. There's none on the walls in these pictures. You don't see any. There's no blood anywhere. And so this is where you really want to question, was he standing when this happened to him? Okay. And I contend, I have a feeling it was not the case. So let me go through here. This is one that I want to show you too. Now this has not been manipulated. This is actually a photo taken at the crime scene, but it doesn't show anything graphic. And it doesn't really show much of Derontae either. But this was something I found odd. During the crime scene photos taking and everything, they noticed this. Okay, make sure you guys can see this. This is a pocket knife, open pocket knife, pointing up, stuck in his shorts pocket. Okay. Now, I have asked the family, and they do not believe that was his. They had never seen it before. So let me ask some more questions, because I'm from the show me state. I'm Texas, but I'm from the show me state. I've lived in the show me state for a while. I was like, okay, prove it to me. I have a husband and I have a teenage son, who's almost 19. So this case really hits me hard. They would never carry an open pocket knife in their pants, much less basketball shorts. Okay, so Derontae was in some red basketball shorts. Now, any man knows that if a pocket knife comes open in your pocket, you better be really careful and get it out right away. It's going to stab you and cut you all to pieces just trying to get it out of your pants pocket. Now, it will be even worse if it's in loose, baggy shorts. Okay, so I don't know any man on the planet that would walk around with an open, large pocket knife sticking up out of his shorts. Okay, so that almost looks like someone stuck it in his shorts. Someone placed it there. Now, that's just my opinion, but I did ask an investigator and a retired cop, and both of them thought that knife was very strange. None of them had seen knives open like that, pointing up in basketball shorts before. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys have done this. Some of you guys out there that carry pocket knives. But everybody I've talked to, it seems very strange that that would be there. It almost looks like someone placed that in his shorts. So I'm sitting here going, why? And it goes back to the same narrative. If we're supposed to believe this narrative that the police give us, if we're supposed to believe that, they said that he was uncomfortable. So one of the witness statements, which if you go through and you read all the witness statements, it's just insane. None of them make sense. But you have to realize most of these kids were doing drugs. So they don't know what's going on. So, but none of the statements match. All the statements conflict each other. None of them, come together at all. But one of the statements was one of the guys there, he was uncomfortable. So one of the guys there gave him the gun because Derontae didn't come with a gun. But my thought on it is, why would you be uncomfortable if you have this big honking knife in your pocket? You know what I'm saying? So that again just kind of makes the narrative odd. If he had a weapon on him, then why was he so uncomfortable that this person gave him another weapon? Of course, it's a knife versus a gun, but still, if you're uncomfortable and you have a weapon, why would you get another weapon from somebody else? If you're uncomfortable, why don't you just leave? And I've always contended from the beginning, his friend could have drove him 30 minutes away to his grandmother's house because that was the plan. After this ordeal, Derontae was supposed to go home to his grandma's and stay there for a while. Okay. So in all reality, this so-called friend should have got his friend that was uncomfortable out. Leave the party for 30 freaking minutes and drive your friend to his grandma's house. That's real simple. Now, in this county, I definitely don't recommend you walk home. That's for sure. Because if you listen to all the cases, there were 2 dead bodies in the road that got run over and conveniently labeled accidents. So I definitely didn't recommend him walk home. But if this so-called friend could have left for 30 minutes and taken him home if he's uncomfortable. So again, the knife, I question that it's his. The family questions that it's his. They'd never seen it before. And this goes down to, okay, he was from the city. And these are a bunch of, country folk. So you get a lot of country boys carrying pocket knives. You know what I mean? But you don't get a lot of city boys carrying those kinds of pocket knives. They might carry a different kind of knife or carry a gun, but just down to, that wasn't his culture. That wasn't his, he was into college and sports and all that. You don't carry pocket knives on the football field, so it's not uncommon that he might have a pocket knife, but he wasn't the type that carried them all the time. And he definitely didn't have one like that. And so the whole knife thing just puts a little bit more suspicion and really makes me question the police narrative even more. Okay. Okay, I think I'm about to the end of my list. Let me look again just to make sure. Okay. All right. Yes, that's the end of my list. Okay, so let's look at this picture one more time. Let me find the right one. Okay, let me look at this picture one more time. And then we'll close this video out. Okay. All right. So this is the photo. This is the edited photo that I created, so you could see the room without the body of Derontae Martin. So just to go over and re-highlight, there's no blood spatter that we can see on any of these pipings or this wall, and that would be where his elbow would have had to be. Now, when you look at the crime scene with his body, his leg and his knee is right up against this. It's just flat up against it. So he's not over here anyway to where he could get his arm. He is right up against this. His leg is laying up on this this metal right here. Okay, so he is right up against it. Okay, his head's back here. There's no blood spatter on this wall. There's no blood spatter on this wall. The only blood there is pooled under his head and just up the floor joist a ways. It's about halfway up the floor joist over here. Okay. So we don't see the gun where it's supposed to be. The gun's not falling where it's supposed to be. It's like this whole case, the whole concept of physics was thrown out the wall, out the window. Let's just like, we don't need physics for this. So we're going to believe that Derontae was standing right here facing this way. He fell backwards. He somehow jammed his elbow through those pipings and got his hand twisted around to where it's 2 feet from the head. Somehow he supposedly did this. He fell back. His leg is flat up against this surface. Somehow after he died, he put his foot underneath this box. And then he laid back with both arms up here like this. And the gun was faster, and it landed faster than him. And it flew forward instead of backwards. And it landed under his hand. Okay. So somehow we're to believe the narrative that the police have told us. Okay. If all of that sounds logical to you, then fine. But to believe the narrative of this that the police has told us, you would have to believe all of those things. And I contend that if you question any of those points, if any of those points make you question, then you cannot rightfully say that it was this. Okay. If just one of my points make you question, then you can't rightfully automatically class it as this, especially when you know there was someone else in that room when he died. That someone else also ran out screaming. That someone else wasn't arrested on the scene and taken in immediately for questioning. That person wasn't on the scene by the time the police came. Okay. The police finally did come in and give a statement to the police. But by then, he was probably clean and sober and no telling, how long it took for him to do that. Okay. So my question is, can you believe all of the things? Do you think physics don't apply to this case? Do you think he could twist his hand like that and keep it 2 foot away and still do it? Do you think he could do that with his non-dominant hand because his right hand was in a cast? And you do see that in the crime scene photos. Okay, so this is what this video is. We are just questioning the narrative around this strange crime scene of Derontae Martin. Now, I will link the other video to this video so you can see where we really outlay the case and you can get a better idea. But this is just about the crime scene. So I hope you will think about this. And if you do not believe that it was this, I do believe the family of Derontae has a petition out to get the case reopened and reinvestigated. So if you do not believe in this after you watch this, I will get the petition link and I'll put it in the video description once I get it. So I do believe that this case can be solved. I do not believe this case can be solved to this conclusion, though. And so that's my opinion. I don't want to sway yours. I want you to look through all of it and come to your own conclusion. Because as an American, I believe that's the way things should be done. We should be able to get all of the information and then you come to your own conclusion. If you believe this, fine. But if you don't, I ask you to share the video and get it out there so we can get more people questioning the narrative. And maybe we can raise enough publicity about this case that something will be done. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you.